Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now from Fore Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. We have an opportunity today to segue back into the real estate world a little bit. It's always an interesting and timely topic of conversation. And in the 25 years I've been in the real estate business, I've come to appreciate the importance of not procuring the contract, but the aftermath, the inspection process that takes place in North Carolina, as we know, with the due diligence period, and the importance of a home inspection. Goodness, over 1,100 transactions has taught me that handling the home inspection is key to keeping the buyers and sellers moving forward. We're going to be joined today by Jon Baker of Pineland Inspections, and real estate broker Rose Ward from Fore Properties, who also has had a lot of experience in the business and is an old soul by nature. So when you're an old soul and you can see the whole playing field, it gives you the opportunity to see and anticipate what can happen, because whether you are working, Rose, with a buyer or a seller, there's a lot of preparation involved in, in managing their expectations.
It's a lot involved in that, especially the seller. They get nervous about what's going to happen once they get the contract. Then you have to explain the due diligence. So that's the main period, in my opinion. It's not just getting the offer. It's that period between the offer and the due diligence.
Right.
Because now everybody's like, okay, inspections are happening. What am I going to have to pay out?
Right.
What's going to happen to what is he going to find? So,
right. Jon, I want to welcome you. And as much as I want to just dive right into home inspections, before I do, I want to talk a little bit about you, how we met, your background, where you came from. I was very impressed when I met you and when we spoke. You came across as exceptionally honest and straightforward and intelligent, and with an attitude of serving others rather than serving yourself, and that's an important aspect in our business.
Yes, sir, Bill. Rose, thank you both for having me.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here. Serving families for me is at a personal level. 20 years in the military, it's kind of just the life we chose as soldiers. And before that, living with my dad, I remember the importance of the home, and even getting on the roof with my dad. I'm not sure what the inner dealing was, but he had it figured out with the one he was renting the property from for us to repair the roof. And I just remember carrying those square shingles up on the roof and helping him with that. And that's kind of where my love for the trades began.
Right.
I lived with my grandmother when she was diagnosed with cancer, and that's kind of where my heart was developed. And when she passed away, within a month, I was at the recruiter station, kind of pleading to them, telling them, this is it. I don't have another choice. So in the military, I was in the infantry for the first 8 years, and then I went on to selection for special forces and becoming a mechanical systems and the integrity of mechanical systems for foreign and domestic equipment is kind of where I developed many systematic approaches to the operating procedures, and then I became an intelligence sergeant to kind of develop analytical reports to get our team on operations, and that's where I kind of developed an analytical mindset, which fulfilled the obligation to come back after the military and become a home inspector here in Moore County.
Yeah. You have family here?
Yes, I do. So my wife, Brooke, she's a second grade school teacher at Sandhills Classical Christian School, and that's where our two children, June, who's 11, and Henry, who's 9, they attend there as well.
Yeah, great school. We've had them on the show many times.
Okay.
The head of school, Gene Lichty, has been on. I guess a development fundraiser for the school. I have some friends who have kids there, and it's I'm amazed at the kids who go to Sandhills Classical Christian. Their level of eye contact when they speak to an adult is terrific, and their discipline is really something to see. I mean, they really do raise kids that seem to be so accountable, almost like all old souls. So education is a big part. It's important to your family, obviously.
100%. And it comes into like the competency of development, and it's broken down for us into education, of course, and then training and experience. The education aspect for Sandhills Classical Christian School definitely was right off the bat appealing to us before we moved up here to North Carolina. We were stationed in Florida prior to that, and looking around, my wife was job searching, and Sandhills nailed it on the head.
Yeah. How many years did you serve overall in the military?
20 years.
Wow. Can you tell by the way he was speaking about his job descriptions how he can transfer that so easily into the home inspection field?
Oh yeah, detail,
Right?
detail. Yes.
Yes, the I feel like everything is coming back, and Pineland Inspections is a grounded in faith company, and feeling conversations with God, trying to figure out why does this feel like it's so meant to be. It's really easy with the experiences that I've obtained overseas. And even the formal education, obtaining my undergraduate degree in analytics and moving on to my graduate degree at Liberty University, where I majored in entrepreneurship, and my business plan was Pineland, and that's where the logo and the whole idea came from.
Yeah. When we set this show up, Rose, I think, and I told him that you were going to join us on the show because I wanted to get you on because you have a very good perspective. You guys had actually met, I guess, at another home at some point in the past.
We did. We actually met at a home that was doing an open house, and John stopped by, which was great, to introduce himself. And when he did, we also kind of cornered him and said, okay, look at this house and see, is there something that sticks out? And he kind of walked around, and he actually showed us how to get into the one room upstairs that had the condenser unit that was locked. He goes, well, here's the key up top. So it was fun. That just meant a lot because he took the extra time when he stopped in to introduce himself.
Yeah, we want to talk to you a lot about the services that you offer. I have just a big picture question. We always talk about pre-listing inspections, regular home inspections after you have a ratified contract. Mm-hmm. But here's something I don't understand. We all have physicians and doctors that we go to every 2 or 3 years for a physical.
Right.
But homeowners do not treat their home like they treat themselves. In other words, you don't have to be a buyer or a seller to have a home inspection. You're the largest asset that most people own. Wouldn't it be nice to know every 3, 4, 5 years what the condition of your home is? You don't have to be a seller. But it's sort of like checkpoints for you to shepherd along and maintain the home to keep it in its best shape. Because when you do eventually go to sell, you will minimize the number of surprises. It just amazes me. People have their homes appraised to check on their value. Why don't they have their home inspected? Just a big picture point.
Sure. No, it's a great point. The pre-listing inspections, I feel there's not a better thing the seller who's preparing to put their home on the market can do to set the stage for that home. You're getting it's essentially you're studying for the test. The buyer is going to send a home inspector in, and the home inspector is going to find, whatever the essential components, structural components of the home that may have issues. By getting a pre-listing inspection, it's essentially the same thing that the buyer's inspection is going to do, but it's on your terms and it's on your time. And if you get far enough to the left in front of it, you can identify those issues and correct those issues prior to the home being put on the market. And you're essentially setting the real estate transaction up for success.
In a pre-listing inspection, if you go in and the home is going to be put on the market for sale, what are some of the major components that your pre-listing home inspection covers, and how is it different if you were doing a regular home inspection after a contract was put together?
It's the same. They're both essentially the same because it covers the entire home. You're essentially looking at the exterior to see how the home is positioned with the grading to ensure that the water is being pushed away from the foundation. The two essential things that home inspectors are looking for the most, the critical things are how water is impacting the home and foundation issues that may cause detrimental issues down the road. But as far as the pre-listing home inspection, you're essentially taking more time with it on your terms. And the essential components consist of everything from the roof and its condition through the attic, checking the structural components, and then as far as ventilation and stuff, as well as the essential components, your HVAC, your electrical. Older homes may have electrical, the branch circuit wiring that may not be up to snuff and may present a safety concern. The way that you lived in the house is going to be different than the buyer lives in the house. And when you have new occupants in the house, the way they treat it may trigger safety concerns, whereas the previous homeowner wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
So it's best to check the boxes on each component to ensure that everything is within the safety guidelines, code, so on and so forth.
Is the cost for a pre-listing home inspection, is it based solely on square footage?
And the age of the home.
And the age of the home. Tell me why the age of the home factors in.
Sure.
There's a reason.
No, there's definitely a reason. I did a home on a 1973 build in Whispering Pines just the other day. And all of the documentation that the buyer's agent provided me talked about the renovations and all the plumbing. The copper, plumbing was replaced with PVC. The one thing that stood out to me was the lack of information for the branch circ wiring. And during that time, 1973, it was common for the copper was being redirected to the war effort. So aluminum branch circuit wiring was installed in homes during that time period, which is a safety concern. And that was the first thing I wanted to see. I was anxious to get in there.
Panel box.
And I opened her up. It wasn't a Zinsco panel or a Federal Pacific, which are also known for failure and were installed during those times. But this was an ITE, which was bought out by Siemens, and it was good to go. Everything was copper, and it looked good. It was well kept. We were pleased, and the homeowner was pleased.
He's so funny because when I look at a home built in the 60s or 70s, and I walk through the house to get an idea about whether or not this home should be a candidate for a pre-listing home inspection, the first thing I look for is a Federal Pacific panel box. Federal Pacific, if you Google it, they conduct their electricity with aluminum, and they were fire hazards. And they are located in many properties of that age, and that panel box will have to come out and will have to be replaced, even if it's working fine. It's no different than polybutylene pipes versus PEX because of the negative publicity and the capacity they have to leak.
Lawsuits associated with those are usually what trigger the issues. There's a new one, below the counter kitchen island receptacles.
Yep.
National Electric Code, I think in 2023, kind of rid of those in their code. Even new builds here, local codes, it's still an accepted practice. And I have one in my home, but it's just mentioning it to clients and ensuring that they're aware that it is a safety concern, I feel, is us following through. If you have a crock pot or pancakes cooking in the morning and you have small children that come by and pull that cord down, that's what has sent thousands of children to the hospital. And that data is also, readily available. But yeah, I feel like merging that information from the technical aspects to the homeowner for informative purposes is where we make our money.
We're going to come back in the second set. We're going to be running over, I think, on each set today. We're speaking with Jon Baker from Pineland Inspections, and I'm being joined by Rose Ward of Fore Properties. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our second set of All Things Moore County. Our guest is Jon Baker from Pineland Inspections, and I'm being joined by Rose Ward of Fore Properties. We finished the first set talking about the pre-listing inspection and how what Jon does is not what every inspector does. The pre-listing inspection is done exactly as the regular inspection, so it's complete. It's not an abbreviated inspection. To be noted, the real estate market is like a bird in flight. When it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, it does affect how home inspections and repairs are negotiated. However, like Rose, in the situation where you have a pre-listing inspection, it doesn't mean that the seller has to fix the items, but it's good for them to be aware of them, to know that they may come up, and it will help them negotiate a better price for the home in anticipation of, so the seller is more prepared, whether the buyer decides to order a home inspection or not. And if you share those results with the buyer, you're putting more truth in the transaction, and the more truth you put out there, the chances of the transaction being more seamless is better. So my question to you is, whether it's a pre-listing home inspection or a regular home inspection, assuming you're representing the seller, tell me the process of how you read the report and then how you present it to your seller.
How I look at it is I basically I'll read it, I'll go through it, and the points that I give to the seller are the simple points, the most important points, the ones that I can say to them, okay, it'd be best if we take care of this.
The quarter and half dollar repairs
correct.
Versus the nickel and dime repairs.
And don't get upset about all this, jargon that's in here, because it's going to have all the repairs. It's going to have anything from the leaky faucet underneath the sink, which is a very quick fix. Don't get hung up on that. So I will show them the whole report because they purchased it. I mean, it's their purchase.
Right.
But I also like to point out that these are the focus points that we need to look at. Okay. And now let's look, how much is it going to cost you as a buyer to fix it? Or do we go back after the seller and ask for it?
So you're talking now about working with a buyer.
Yeah, you had asked me about the seller. I'm sorry, Bill.
Yeah.
So the seller, they get scared. Especially when they know that we're in that due diligence period. And they always tell me that, well, we already had the HVAC check. It gets serviced quarterly.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that,
Right.
Even though it's 18 years old, it still works. So the seller, you have to explain to them that you're going to probably get something back, and we'll sit down and discuss it.
Yeah, and if it's a seller's
it's-
market or buyer's market, it determines how the repairs are negotiated. If it's a multiple offer situation, the leverage is with the seller, and the repairs become less of an issue. Every transaction is different.
Yes, it
Every
is.
single transaction is different. The comment that I made to you and to John earlier was that home inspection reports always seem to read more inflammatory than they are in reality.
Correct. And that's what scares the sellers and the buyers because they see all that information. I had a report one time for the seller that was shared with me from the buyer's agent. And I'm telling you, I was just I couldn't even read it because it was definitely 80 pages plus, and it was every little thing in there. Well, when her buyer saw it, of course, I got all this information back, and I'm thinking
Do you remember how old the house was?
it was 1993.
Okay.
It wasn't even an old house, but it was interesting to find out that he was there for 4 or 5 hours, and it was just like when the whole thing came back, I was like, my goodness, how am I ever going to decipher this myself, let alone decipher this once they shared it with me to the seller of what needs to be fixed. And they wanted everything fixed.
John, why do the reports tend to read more inflammatory than they really are in reality?
When the home inspection is completed, according to specific North Carolina home inspector licensure board standards, it covers everything, and the reports can become lengthy very, very quickly. It's not to say that everything is a catastrophic failure. More so that there are aging things with the home, and it occurs with every home that occur over time. And there could be numerous items that are simple nickel and dime items, as you alluded to. But as far as the narratives and how they're written, they have to be described in a certain way that
Right.
can not only determine the deficiency or finding, but also describe the implications. And the implications are real things that will occur if the finding is not remedied in a timely manner.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And you said the home built in 1993 was not an older home. Today, I would say that I may consider that an older home.
I do.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I consider that an older home. We're in 2025.
Right, right.
And it depends on how the upkeep was.
Right.
In this particular home, the homeowner
Right.
was making things work
That-
in his fashion.
Sure.
And that was a homeowner that decided not to go in and have a physical every 3 or 4 years.
That's right.
And now all of a sudden, after 25 or so,
Yeah.
30 years, he's now putting his house through an MRI machine. And oh, guess what? There are some issues. How many sellers actually go into their crawl space?
How many sellers?
Yeah.
I mean,
how many say?
I have no idea. How many
Never.
homeowners? I would say
yeah.
bare minimum.
Very minimum.
And I mean that's where all the functioning components are. That's where the heart is. That's where the kidneys are, and those areas need to be just at least checked and monitored over time to get ahead of things before they become catastrophic. If you have rusting seals or a slow leak on a water heater, if you don't get ahead of it and just replace it now, it could become a 3-week to 4-month restoration project where other components in the home are being impacted due to that negligence.
And that's what, I'm sorry, Bill.
Go ahead.
But that's what happened with this home. It was hidden, and when we actually pulled down some insulation in the crawl space, we realized that there's a really, really big problem here. And it ended up being a structural issue. But that's the whole thing with if you can convince your sellers to do a
Right.
listing inspection,
Sure.
I'm telling you, it would be hands down the best thing. And I just learned something myself in the years that I've been doing it, that is something that I will be putting on my
Yeah.
definite recommendation for the sellers.
Yeah.
It gives me peace of mind.
It makes the upcoming transaction so much more seamless and expedient for both parties.
Exactly.
And but our market is fickle, and the inspections carry a degree of weight depending upon the psychology of the market. Multiple offer situations in some ways negate some of the inspection results.
That's right.
Right.
It all depends on the demand, and it all depends on the supply. But just feathering your nest and taking care of your largest asset before you even are, if you think 3 years from now you're going to maybe be selling your house or downsizing, check your house out now. Get a head start on it. So when you do put it on the market, you give yourself the best chance to get the best dollar amount in that market environment, whatever it may be.
Right. Right.
And, I mean, there is an advantage to having been in this business for so many years. You really do get to see the whole playing field, and a good broker can anticipate issues that could come up. The one thing we never want to see, John, with our sellers in particular, we don't ever want to see a deer in the headlights look. Like, whoa, where did that come from?
Where'd that come from?
Sure.
Well, if we talk about it, whether they agree or not agree to do something, if it comes up, they're not going to be caught off guard.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's one of our main responsibilities and jobs. It's not selling homes. It's sort of shepherding along a transaction and managing your client's expectations to the best of your ability.
100%. And it not only serves as like a marketing chip in the real estate transaction, showing that the seller is responsible in home ownership, but also transparent. If the roof is aging and it's showing signs of delamination, excessive granular loss, at least they're being transparent with that and letting the future homeowner know, hey, it's a budget for a replacement item, but it's not something that's going to catch the buyer off guard. And it's always best practice to be upfront and transparent to help effective communications keep the ball moving forward.
I have a question for you. Tell me your view on sealed crawl spaces, and I also want to know, in the reports when you write up, you use the term fungal growth rather than the word mold.
Sure.
And that becomes a real big deal. Even the mention of mold can cause agita, but we need to de-dramatize mold, because sometimes it could be serious, but other times it could be perfectly normal growth.
That's right.
Talk to me about crawl spaces.
Sure.
Yeah,
crawl spaces, just like every real estate transaction, each one is specific to the respective crawl space. What may work in one neighborhood may not work in the next neighborhood, and it's a matter of monitoring the crawl space, which proves most effective. If it is fully encapsulated with a dehumidifier, it may prove most useful to seal off the crawl space entirely. But it's not a fire and forget kind of thing. You must monitor it in some capacity. I recommend to my clients, there's a small Bluetooth monitor, I think ThermoPro makes it all, and you can get it from Amazon, but you can put it in your crawl space and it gives you your temperature and humidity, your comfort index. That's something you can check from inside of your home, so you don't even have to go down there. You can also put the geo fences on it to kind of give you an alarm if your crawl space falls to the left or right of those established fences. So if it comes to monitoring the crawl space, I feel like that's how you identify what works for your specific home.
Yeah.
And you know, some homes work really well with not being fully encapsulated, but you know, the encapsulation and moisture control is always the best way to kind of tackle that issue if there are fungal growth or moisture, you know, control issues.
I mean, I will say, as a buyer looking at a house that's encapsulated, they get all excited because it's all pretty and white. I just showed a house the other day to actually a potential buyer, and I had shown the house before. I actually had sold the house before. And when I did, I went to the crawl space, which was a walk-in crawl space. And I stepped my foot down into the encapsulation, and there's this huge puddle. And I was like, oh, there's an issue. And there was an issue. So I alerted the selling agent. But it's, to me, almost those encapsulations are beautiful, but then the potential for the additional repair.
I've seen many sealed crawl spaces where a home inspector has written up that it's not done properly.
Yeah.
And more often than not. So when you use the word encapsulation in your remarks, if the listing agent does, or they say sealed crawl space, it's not a guarantee
That's right.
that it's 100% correct. I've seen more of them where they've said that it's not really been done to exact standards, or the pitch is not correct. They're telling me we're going to pick this up in the third set. We're going to run over in every set. We're speaking all about home inspections with Jon Baker of Pineland Inspections. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our third and final set of All Things Moore County. Jon Baker is our guest from Pineland Inspections. He's a home inspector. Rose Ward is a broker with Fore Properties, and our conversation is for buyers, it's for sellers, it's for brokers, and it's for people who just maybe down the road are thinking of selling their home, to check on the progress of your home from time to time. Don't get caught off guard with something so that by the time you come ready to list your property, you're in a good situation. We ended the second set talking about sealed, encapsulated crawl spaces. Some are done right, some are not. But the homes, the older homes, and there's so many of them in Moore County that don't have sealed crawl spaces, sometimes they have issues that causes fungal growth. And it could be as simple as downspouts, not directing the water away from the home. I think it's the first thing you said in the first set. Mm-hmm. You want to look at the water situation, but you have some moisture down there. Maybe you have an old vapor barrier. Maybe you have efflorescence on the walls. How do you deal with it when you see fungus, but you know it's a situation that could be rectifiable?
Oh, sure. No, that's a great question, Bill. And to the topic of fungal growth, we as home inspectors don't determine the significance or the health implications of our findings. It's all kind of nutshelled into fungal growth because for the most part, I know for Pineland Inspections, we don't have the capability to necessarily test or sample the fungal growth that we find. And for the most part, it's just an indicator that the crawl space is not ventilating properly.
Right.
And the water accumulation, whether it's grading or the drain tiles or the drainage coming off of the roof, it's coming against the foundation to the point where the moisture levels, humidity levels here in beautiful North Carolina can create environment that is promoting fungal growth. So the fungal growth that's usually found in a crawl space is essentially an indicator to address the overall ventilation and atmosphere within the crawl space. And when that's addressed and rectified, continuing to monitor the crawl space, I feel like for homeowners is just a general maintenance item that needs to remain consistent over time.
Sorry, Bill.
Go ahead.
How do you downplay when I'm taking a buyer into a home and we can get into crawl space? I'm not talking down on my hands and knees with them, but if we can get into the crawl space and they right away see that efflorescence on the block, and then on top of that, they're also seeing black, and they're like, "Well, this house has mold. I don't even want to buy it."
Sure.
How do I, as an agent, overcome that? Because like you just said, mold, there's so many different molds. You can't say it's mold, it's fungus. And
That's right.
how do I overcome that with that buyer to say, let's move past that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say we need to move past it. I say it's just something that needs to be addressed. It's an indicator that warrants additional investigation.
Okay.
And why? Why is that here? Where's the efflorescence coming from?
Right.
Are there downspouts that have the black corrugated plastic that's directing into the ground on, let's say, a 1993 home? Perhaps that black corrugated plastic has deteriorated over time. And is clogged and now it's broken and water is pouring from the roof up against the foundation, and over time it has seeped into the crawl space through the cement blocks, and that could be what's causing the efflorescence that you're seeing. But efflorescence in general can truly only be cosmetic in nature and not a true indicator of actual moisture penetration.
And I like how you said that, John, with the fact that it's something that we as a broker can simply say, there may be an issue here, we will have it checked, but get them past the fact that, oh, I can't even look at the rest of this house because it's there.
Sure. No, I mean, my first thing, if I do see, is there a dehumidifier? How is the crawl space being ventilated? Could there be improvements to the ventilation and environment at large?
Okay.
You bring up a couple of great points. I've noticed that there are buyers who have certain no-goes when they look at a home. If it's near power lines,
Correct.
that's a no-go. If they see the crawl space and they think it's mold, no matter what we can do or tell them, it's a no-go.
It's a no-go.
Sometimes if the home is clad in synthetic stucco, that's a no-go.
Sure.
And that doesn't mean that all homes have issues with stucco, but because of some past experiences, moisture issues, there are certain things that they just see when buyers go out to look at homes. I believe they don't go out to find a home; they go out to eliminate homes on their list.
That's right.
And they cross them off. If you have 5 homes to go look at, you want to see which one fits your bill, but you also want to feel constructive that you're actually eliminating certain homes for whatever reason. I was out Saturday with the lady that I've known for years. She's not a first-time buyer. She's in transition, and she's looking at older homes that she can renovate and redo, but they have some issues. And trying to get the information from the listing agent, in this particular case, this agent had a pre-listing inspection report. And it was very helpful because it helped her formulate the questions and the concerns that she had. Had that agent not encouraged her seller to do a pre-listing home inspection, that home would more than likely have been a no-go because there were too many question marks. There's some backfill that needs to be put in. Ramjack had come in to put up some supports.
Yeah.
So there was some
Significant.
red flags, and yet the house had a lot of charm. And it was a privilege, and I want to share this show with her because I think she's very bright and she will absorb it very well. As a buyer who's not been in the market for a long time, having familiarity with a pre-listing home inspection report brings them back into the fold, and they can start to look at the operational systems of a home and get them keyed in on what's important. It's not just what does the home look like inside. Yes, the layout is great, but let's talk about the condition. And so there are a lot of things to look at in a report. You also make recommendations in your inspections. If you feel like there needs to be another inspection done, either by an HVAC expert or a crawl space expert, a roofing expert, you will recommend in your reports that it's advisable to get somebody back in there to look beyond your inspection report, correct?
That's correct. So as a home inspector, it's comparable to your primary care provider for your health. As a general list, I'm the one who identifies an issue with a specific component to the home, and then I will direct the home buyer or seller to an entity that is a qualified professional in that specific field.
Yeah. Another question. You do a home inspection report for a buyer, okay? Rose is your broker. She refers you to the buyer, and she goes through the report. You speak with them, and you explain the big picture, the nickels and dimes versus a quarter and half dollars.
Right.
But your client still needs some reassurance. You would want them to speak directly to John in that
Correct.
situation.
I would, because I don't want to get it in the middle. I'm not an inspector.
Right.
So that's where I would hand it back over to John and say, John, can you please help and explain it to them?
And that's part of what you do, because your reach is, you have tentacles. I mean, I sense that you feel completely responsible for the report that you generate. And part of that, the back end of it, is to bring the buyer into the fold to almost provide therapy.
Consultation, therapy.
Right.
And that's exactly it. Our service to the family, it lasts well beyond the inspection day.
Right.
If you're buying a home and there's something in the report that you identify, let's say 6 months down the road,
Right.
You're more than willing to reach out, and we're more than happy to assist for a consultation well beyond that inspection day or your closing day, for that matter.
That's great. That is great.
I'm looking at your brochure. You do drone photography.
I do. Through the FAA Part 107 certified, that training was acquired in the military. We do have advanced drone technology to provide the client with an inspection that can get to places my feet can't. I'm no longer a mountain goat. So yeah, that drone definitely helps to get on, especially like the high pitch roofs.
And thermal imaging.
We use FLIR technology to get into thing, and it's used as a tool. A moisture meter may be an indicator, but we don't want to just say you have a moisture issue with one tool or instrument. We want to back it up from multiple angles, and that FLIR technology, thermal imagery, definitely helps solidify that analysis.
You also inspect fireplaces. Is that what is included, or no?
Generally, it is, but it's a level 1.
Okay.
Inspection,
Okay.
kind of just, we don't get into the flu. We always recommend in our reports that if you do have a fireplace, you have that level 2 specific professional chimney
Right.
inspection.
Right.
You don't just work in Moore County. You work in other counties as well. But you live in Moore County. Mm-hmm. Your family is in school here. Your children are in school. And I'm sure that 2 or 3 years from now, part of your business plan is to increase your exposure in Moore County.
For sure. Yeah, these are the routes that we're trying to develop, providing services for families here and anywhere from Cary, as far north as Cary, as far south as South Carolina, strictly to North Carolina. It could be for the full service home inspections, but we also can tailor a home watch program where we can do quarterly visits for homeowners or investors who want that more of more frequent monitoring of the home. And also there's an opportunity to do a walk-in talk where I would accompany buyers as they're going to homes, like you said.
Yep.
And where a report isn't necessarily a necessity, I could just accompany the buyer and walk through multiple homes in a given Saturday as a professional consultant.
That's great.
And people, if they want to reach you on your website, your web address is?
It's www.pinelandinspections.com.
Okay, and you even put your cell phone number here, so you're...
Direct contact, 910-992-9976.
Okay. You've given us a lot of information. There are a lot of ramifications of reports and inspectors and who we use and who we refer to our clients. And we have a responsibility to be as upfront with our clients, help them manage their expectations, make them fully aware, so that by the time an offer comes in, we have a smoother transaction for them.
Yes, and that's what we all want as
Yeah.
brokers.
So she's ready to take the show over, I can tell. She's very comfortable in her
I'm
own
like,
skin
please.
here. Rose Ward, thanks for coming in, and I know you have a bright future as well. And John, I wish you the very best of luck. And this was very informative.
Very.
We really appreciate it. I'm going to leave now and go get a physical on myself because my house doesn't talk to me and tell me how it's feeling. But we're going to figure that out.
Yes, sir.
This is All Things Moore County. Have a great week.